No trouble. Have you had lots of interviews and you're sort of going a bit
Yeah.
viral?
Yeah, I don't know about viral. I don't know. But yeah, there's definitely been a lot of interviews and a lot of really nice conversations, whether it's on the street or, nice ones with people like yourself who's really embedded in the movie industry and all that sort of stuff.
Hello, and welcome to the Last Movie Outpost, for all of your movie news, reviews, and everything cool about film. Today we have an interview with Matty Hannon, the director and the star of The Road to Patagonia. Hi, Matty.
Hey, Phil. Great to chat to you. Thanks for having me.
So, The Road to Patagonia is Matty's first full length feature film documentary, and it's a fascinating story of two strangers whose lives are changed forever when their paths crossed while on a surfing adventure of a lifetime, discovering love, downshifting, and four charismatic horses. So, for people who haven't heard of the movie, how would you describe it?
Yeah, it's always hard, isn't it? I guess somewhat along the lines of what you just read out. But also, yeah, I guess in more of a conversational way, I'd describe it as it's quite autobiographical in a way. On It's a bit of a reflection on my own life and some of the things that I've been lucky enough to do. But also, it's, I guess, an investigation into how we as humans relate to the world around us, especially looking at the relationships between us as individuals and communities and the ecosystems or the web of life that ties everything together on Earth. And so, yeah, it's a love story. That's probably the main central narrative between myself and my partner. We met on that movie trip. Not that we really. I mean, it's so funny to talk about it like it's a real movie. I guess it is, but I didn't know what the hell I was doing when I set off from Australia. I just picked up a camera, bought a one-way ticket to Alaska, and started recording things. And it was really only, 8 years later when I started figuring out how to put all the pieces together that I realized that these were the stories. Yeah.
Matty meets beautiful woman and falls in love. Yeah, I can see why
Yeah.
you would put that in the script, you know?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I wish I could have scripted it. Yeah.
So the journey went from Alaska down the west coast, down through Mexico, and down to the southern tip of America to Patagonia. How did you decide on that trip, or was it kind of made up as you went along?
No, I think it was something that I knew I wanted to try and achieve from the get go, from when I bought that ticket to Alaska. I think it was pretty arbitrary though, and in reality, there was probably a bit of ego behind it, and me just wanting to. I was at a point in my life where um, I had been living over in Indonesia for a long time in a very remote place that was very removed from, I guess, modern industrialized
The
mainstream
West.
Western society. Yeah.
Yeah.
Out in the jungle and living with small communities, some of them hunter gatherer tribes. And so I gained a very different worldview through that. And then when I moved back to Australia in my mid 20s, I kind of was at a total loss of identity and felt very misplaced. And so when I went and booked that ticket to Alaska, I was trying in a way to sort of rediscover who I was, but probably also to sort of prove something to myself that I could break out of this funk that I'd found myself in while living in Melbourne in Australia and go and do something that felt like it would be amazing. And so, yeah, I picked the highest point of that landmass, or the northernmost point and the southernmost point, and wanted to travel the west coast of the Americas because that's open to all the big swells, and so it would, yeah, make a really nice surfing adventure.
Which is weird because Australians are not really known for their surfing, are
Nah, 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 not at all.
they?
Yeah.
So how long did you think the journey was actually going to take you? Because obviously it's a journey of it showed me in kilometers, but I still work in miles. But it's like thirty
Yeah,
thousand miles, 50,000 kilometers. How long did you
yeah.
think it was going to take?
Originally, I remember thinking, what was I thinking? I think I thought it was going to take 1 year, um, because I wanted to leave in the summer up north in Alaska, not winter, and arrive down in Patagonia in the summer of that same year. And so, but there, it was totally, I had no idea what I was thinking, it was just one of those.
And,
Um,
and let's go on an adventure. Let's just go and do it.
yeah. So it ended up taking 2.5 years. Yeah. Yeah.
So, if somebody was thinking of doing the same kind of thing, what advice
Mhm.
would you give them?
Um, well, I would say to them, it's a beautiful experience and something that's very, if you're in that position to be able to do that, probably most of us, if you're like me, if you're not a trust fund kid or you don't have, mum and dad paying your way or, some kind of real solid financial backing, I would say if you're going to do that trip, it's, yeah, you've probably got to sacrifice in other ways in your life. For me, it was coming back home completely broke and dealing with that for a year or two, really. So, but beyond the financials of it, it's a very privileged thing to be able to go and do that. Just on the, to have the ability to save that money and a passport that allows you to travel the world like that, is amazing. And I'd wholeheartedly encourage people to, yeah, if that is a dream for them, to go for it. But I would also add that that's not the main message of the film, if that makes sense. Yeah, I
No,
think
no, no.
by the end of it, I've sort of felt like the traveling is a beautiful way to experience a lot of new things, but it's not really that essential to living a really fulfilling and content life.
No, I mean, again, that really comes across that you're very much into conservation and living in harmony with this planet that we live on. Here's an interesting question then. So, what was more important to you, educating people in the relationship they can have with nature, or doing the surfing?
That is an interesting question. Yeah, they're two very different things, and yeah, I mean, I kind of hope that the film isn't too educational, and that it, like, I really wanted to make something that felt, because it's a movie, it's and there's really important space for those kinds of documentaries that are impact documentaries, they're breaking issues and they're super timely, and they're, that's their role, to educate and you know bring impact and change the world in that way. But what I was more interested in was, taking the audience on an emotional journey, and telling a story that felt, I guess, really meaningful to myself, but that level that you were talking about of, speaking to conservation and
Mm.
issues around globalization and all that sort of stuff. It did feel very important, yes, but I wanted to explore it in a way that felt really natural and not overtly.
Ram
I
it
don't
down your throat type of way.
Yeah, and that's why doing it through the vehicle of a love story, felt
Mm.
like a nice way to do it. But yeah, whether it's more important than surfing for me, it's hard to say. But yeah, I mean, I think it definitely is. It's the fate of our planet. Um, yeah, but on a personal level, surfing brings me a lot.
Obviously, it's a bit of a glib question, but it's just I know how important surfing is to Australians. When I was down there, I stayed with a family, and the
Yeah,
dad said the problem with surfers are because he worked with his son. He said the problem with surfers are is all they do is think about surfing. They're only working and thinking, "When can I knock off so I can go
yeah.
surfing?"
Oh, I was just going to say, I do think that is a bit of an unfortunate reality, and not all surfers across the board, no pun intended, but there is. Yeah, an unfortunate reality of the vast majority of surfers treat it more as a sport rather than something where you're also a bit of a steward for the ocean and that
Yeah.
sort of thing. But yeah,
Weirdly, that kind of made me think of, because I thought of this during when I watched Road to Patagonia, of Point Break, how
oh yeah,
Patrick Swayze's character, it wasn't the surfing was about the connection with the surf and the nature, and that end bit when he goes out to surf and he knows he's going to
yeah,
die, but he has to do it. Again, it's kind of it's weird in that way, but like you say, the
yeah.
surfing, it can be a sport, obviously, but also it's like you say, it's a connection to nature.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely is, and there is definitely a whole strong contingent of surfers as well. I shouldn't, try and paint all
No,
surfers as not connected, but there's definitely a strong contingent of people that's one of their core reasons of is going out into the ocean. It's almost a daily practice rather than, any kind of performance oriented metric. So yeah,
so
yeah.
you're no stranger to making documentaries. Did you study photography and videography at some point, or
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did an undergrad in ecology and communications, and so that was kind of it was a bit of a um, I guess it was quite an early degree in that science communication space of how can we talk about environmental issues in a way that isn't too science heavy. It's a way to sort of get these
yeah,
kinds of stories out into the mainstream. Um, and after that, I went and did a master's in filmmaking, which specialized in documentary. But it was all very, very theoretical because it was a master's. It wasn't really a true film school. It was through a university rather than a dedicated film school. And I feel like I don't know. I don't regret uh, what I did by any means, but it was all very kind of high level theory as opposed to like practical filmmaking sensibility and practice. And I feel like maybe I was great for storytelling though. Yeah, yeah, I do appreciate the theory of storytelling.
the photography in the Road to Patagonia is stunningly beautiful. I mean, but then again, you were visiting places where you couldn't take a bad
That's
photo
it.
if you tried.
No, that's
I
it,
mean,
isn't
some
it?
of it, yeah. I mean, but again, did you sort of kind of wake up just some mornings and just sort of soak in that aura of where you were and what how you felt?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, yeah. Oh, I mean, and that was the biggest challenge of making this film, I feel like. Apart from the financial side of things, it's really expensive to make a documentary, and I wasn't aware at that time of how expensive it was. I was quite, optimistic and ignorant, and I was just like, I'll just make it and it'll be fine. And but apart from the finance, the hardest part of making the film was trying to take all those feelings that we'd experienced during those moments you just described of waking up in an incredible place or riding on horseback and just really just feeling into the flow. And you're a year and a half into a journey by this stage, and all those concerns of the rushing rat race has totally dissipated. Your life doesn't actually it's not connected to that anymore, and so you're really feeling deeply into the place. And the hardest part of telling of making the film was trying to distill those emotions into a filmic language because they're so
Mm,
massive, they're almost indescribable, and then to try and package it up into a digital medium that's then projected into a closed room on a big screen is really difficult.
yeah, it's obviously it's not the same as being there. Not going off on a tangent, but what does freedom mean to you? Is
Yeah.
it? Do you think it's achievable in today's world as well?
That's a big question, isn't it? Uh,
Because ultimately, I mean, you had that kind of freedom where you were limited. You were very
mm,
limited, maybe on funds and so forth, but you
yeah,
had that freedom to just be able to do whatever you want. So, I mean, like I
totally.
say, what does it mean to you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I mean, I'm very aware, especially some of the countries where we spent time, very aware that our limited funds is very relative compared to some of the places that we traveled through where
Mm.
some people are, they're struggling to feed their families properly, and we're worried about finishing films and other things like that. But yeah, freedom. What does it mean to me? I feel like uh, one of the biggest things that I learned while living with the Mentawai people in Sumatra, and it was also reinforced on the journey from Alaska down to Patagonia, was uh, time, and how in this modern industrial globalized world, or the West, or whatever you want to call it, but it's not really just the West anymore. It's everywhere you go in the world. Um, our time has been usurped by this system in order for us to, we work our jobs to pay our mortgage so that we have a roof over our head.
Yeah.
And to use that analogy, there's so many different analogies, but let's say we use the housing analogy. For an average Australian to pay off their house, it's roughly 30, 35 years of a mortgage for them to be able to eventually
Yeah.
own the house that they live in. Whereas in Mentawai, where I was living for 5 years, the traditional people there are able to build a house in a couple of months, and it's just like wham bam, that's it. That.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're very often tricked into this sense of um, uh, I don't know. Yeah, I guess the extravagance of the material world can make us feel so fulfilled, and it does have that feeling sometimes,
Yeah.
um, but we forget that we're giving up so much of our time, and the time is lost in family relationships. If you look at the Mentawai people, how much time a father gets to spend with his sons and daughters. It's hours and hours and hours every day. Just he's got all the time in the world, and the early explorers called them lazy savages, because they couldn't believe how little these people worked, um, but
But that sounds
to me,
great.
I know, right? To me, that's the freedom, and it's tricky because, um, yeah, all our friends exist in the system, and so to remove yourself from the system comes with implications. And we also love doing stuff like this. I really like making documentaries, and you love movies and doing podcasts and all this sort of stuff. And so, yeah, it's all a balance, isn't it? I think freedom is the choice to be able to um, you know, follow your heart, maybe.
So obviously, the Road to Patagonia is doing very well at the moment. It's getting to a much wider audience. Are you pleased at the fact that you are then able to talk about conservation and the plight of certain people?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that's the only reason the film was eventually finished, because it was so difficult. It did take, what was it? I don't know, 5, 7 years after the journey was finished to actual release. Um, it, yeah, because getting the money for funding your first film is really tricky. Um, and we would have given up if it had have just been a story about just us personally. But the reason we felt it was important enough to keep injecting all this energy into it, and something worthwhile sharing with the wider community, was the story of conservation and, yeah, the animacy of the world around us.
So here's a question that might get you into trouble. What was worse, saying goodbye to Heather the first time, knowing that you may not see her again, or saying goodbye to the horses?
It was definitely saying goodbye to Heather, for sure. And I'm not
Oh,
saying
okay.
that just because she's in
I
the other
wasn't sure what you were going to say because obviously,
one.
how long did you have the horses for?
It was 6 months in total, so it wasn't ages and ages, but
You
we
form a bond.
formed a very, yeah, and more so than what average horse owners would, because we were literally camping with the horses all day, every day in a little tent in the same paddock that they would end up in, or the same cliffside, or the same wherever we happened to find ourselves. And so it was a very intimate relationship, intense, even though it wasn't super long. But I would say, yeah, horses, they're not like dogs in the sense that, they're incredibly loyal and they're man's best friend. They're also like willing to run off on you, and uh, if they've got greener pastures, um, and I mean, not that decreased the amount of love we had for them. We love them incredibly, but I think we were also both so very tired after, what was it, a year and a half or something like that, of being on a motorbike, and then another 6 months on horseback, or even longer in total. um, we were just so tired as well. By the time we found somewhere safe for the horses, it was like amazing. We've just so stoked to be able to hand them over.
So I can hear the little ones in the background. How are the
Yeah.
family now?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, it's a bit of a spoiler there, but yeah, I do. I've got a 3.5-year-old son called Colt, and a 11-month-old son called Albie.
Wow, that's fantastic. So, I mean,
Yeah, lucky.
having a family now that are obviously just in the processes of growing up, but do you think you could do an adventure again like this, maybe with them?
Yeah, well, you'd have to change the parameters a little bit, but we're thinking about it at the moment, actually. We're making plans for, not that it's all about going off on these big wild adventures, but we were lucky enough to, and coming back to what I was speaking to earlier about the importance of family and all that sort of thing. We bought a little farm with my brother and my sister and their two partners. And so, yeah, we've been living on that for the last 3.5 years, and going really deeply into, I guess, yeah, building veggie gardens and food forests, and regenerating a whole bunch of the bush on the property, and just building and general stuff. But yeah, it sort of feels like in a few years' time there'll be an itch to go off exploring again, and I'd also like to make another film that, yeah, dives into some of the similar kind of themes.
I mean, like you said, with some of the people that you met, that these, what did you call them, lazy savages. But again,
Mm,
spending time with your children and giving them that kind of education about the world and about the people that you can meet in the world.
mm,
Obviously, they have to go to the school, and as we used to say in this country, the 3 R's: reading, writing, and arithmetic. But
hmm.
again, there's kind of that school of life, which is
Yeah.
just as important.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, Heather's quite interested in homeschooling, or even unschooling. In a prior life, I was actually a high school teacher. I taught in England, actually, for
All right.
6 months or something like that, in the southeast of London. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, there are parts of the schooling system that, I don't know. They leave a bit to be desired, I think, and
Yeah.
so yeah, I wouldn't have any problem pulling them out of school for a couple of years and homeschooling them. But obviously, the social stuff, it's important not to smother your kids too much and give them a bit of space, I think.
Okie dokie. Now, what we've got is just a very quick, let's get to know Matty a little better, a little quick fire round.
Sure.
So, doesn't have to be complicated, but just here's a,
I'll
a
keep it
random
short.
list of questions. I ask everybody, but so
Yeah.
tea or coffee?
Tea.
Favorite movie?
Ooh. I should have a good one. Um, I'm just going to say Samsara by Ron Frick. And yeah.
Some of these questions were written for more movie people, so I apologise. But Marvel or DC?
Oh, I wouldn't know. Batman?
That's fair enough. He's DC, just to get the
Is
nerd
he?
thing out of the way. Um, favorite TV show?
I don't have a television.
Oh, right, fair enough. That's, to be fair, sometimes that is the best way to live because you actually get things done. Um,
I don't know.
what would be your life motto?
Oh, life motto. Oh, damn. Hmm. How to think of something profound in this moment? Well, I would probably appropriate something from Indonesia where they say pelan pelan or moile moile, and it just means slowly, slowly. And I really like that. Yeah, that gesture to life of not rushing around. And again, it comes back to that thing of time. You know, they always say Westerners are running around like crazy and
Mm.
never have any time, and they always say moile moile. Not just to Westerners, it's actually a way of life for them. Sorry, I know this is supposed to be a short answer, but
That's right.
um, they say that if you're rushing around too much, the spirit inside of you can become unhappy and will want to leave your body. And so, yeah, keep it slowly, slowly, and gentle, gentle. Yeah.
Nice. Star Wars or Star Trek?
Uh, Star Wars.
Great answer. Uh, biggest
Yeah, yeah,
who's,
you got
who's
the things in the background there.
um who's your biggest inspiration?
Oh, wow. Oh man. It would be just Mother Nature. It would be just the earth around us and finding all those little moments of beauty in sitting in the ocean on a surfboard or going for a hike through the, yeah, that would by far. But if it has to be a human, I would say my family, in just in general, my family. Yeah.
Nice answer.
Mm.
Who's your favorite band or singer?
I grew up listening to a lot of punk rock music. And so it would either be Bad Religion or No Effects, but I don't really listen to them anymore. But back in the
Mhm,
day when
fair.
I was super passionate,
Where in the world do you still want to visit?
I'd love to dive a little deeper into some of the Buddhist philosophies and up into the Himalayan mountains. Yeah.
Nice. And last one then, have you got a favorite book?
Oh, probably. Yeah. Let me let it come to me. Um, oh, there's so many good ones, isn't there? Uh, oh, look, I'm just going to go with a big bestseller. That there's so many like really important books that I've been reading and really enjoyed, but I feel like just for something really gripping, one that sticks to mind is Into Thin Air by John Krakauer, which is an incredible story about it's the most deadly season on Everest or something like that, and it's just
Right.
kind of gripping in the most yeah, pretty crazy story.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that quick fire round. So you've already said that you're planning stuff for the future. So what does the future hold for you at the moment?
I this year I'm finishing off a couple of small documentaries, kind of like shorts, and a half-hour art house documentary from Papua New Guinea that's about locals surfing, and yeah, it's kind of a non-dialogue art house doco. So that'll be coming out, and then I'm also teaming up with a brand, the Patagonia is the brand, and we're heading over to Indonesia this year, and over the next couple of years to sort of do a largish um, film, probably around the 40-ish minute mark with those guys. So that'll keep me busy for a little while. And then in amongst all of that, I'm working on a new proper feature sort of cinematic film. So yeah, there's plenty to keep me busy.
Excellent. So
Well, that's just
I
film.
know you. Oh, go on.
Sorry, I was just yeah. I don't. I guess also there's just there's the farm and there's family and there's just good living as well that I try and prioritize over work. But yeah, that's the film stuff.
I think that's a good life motto, really, to prioritize family over work. Because, like I say, I think we
Try.
can all do with a little bit of that.
Yeah.
So I know you may not be 100% on this, but where can people see the Road to Patagonia at the moment?
Yeah, so it's coming out. It sounds like it's going to be pretty limited through the UK in cinemas, but yeah, Kaleidoscope has a whole range of those dates. I could send you those over if you wanted.
Thank you.
Um, but yeah, it'll be a limited release in the UK, and then after that, it'll go to digital. And then over in the States, it'll be playing theatrically in September and then digital after that as well. And so, yeah, we're just sort of bit by bit doing the international rollout. Yeah.
Genuinely, like I say, I loved it. I sat down and watched it with Mrs. Boberfield, and it was
Yeah.
we do love those documentaries about other cultures and everything else, and both of us were just gripped all the way through. It was a really really well shot, and like you say, the love story that goes through it is good, and everything that you've mentioned in it, it just worked really really well. So, I'll
Thanks.
leave a review in. I'll leave a review in on to a link to the Last Movie Outpost for it, but highly recommended.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, Matty, thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you, Phil. I really appreciate your time and the kind words. It means a lot, after such a big, long journey of going on the thing and then making the film itself. It means a lot to hear the words from someone like yourself.